The rain started the moment Eliza crossed the rusted welcome sign of Ashgrove. It wasn't a soft drizzle, but a cold, vengeful downpour that seemed to crawl under her skin. The windshield wipers squealed like trapped rats as they struggled to keep up. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel and squinted through the foggy glass. It had been 16 years. 16 years since her parents vanished without a trace. 16 years since the police called it a murder-suicide. 16 years since she was dragged away from the house, barefoot, bleeding, and screaming about something in the walls. And now she was back. The house sat on the edge of the woods like a forgotten grave marker, 3 stories of mildew-streaked stone and ivy-choked windows. The towering oak surrounding it had grown even thicker, casting the house in a perpetual shadow even at noon. Eliza turned off the engine and sat still. The silence was heavier here. Too heavy. Like the whole place was holding its breath. She pulled the hood of her coat up and stepped out. Her boots sank slightly into the muddy ground as she grabbed her flashlight and keys. The gate creaked as she pushed it open, the sound echoing unnaturally in the quiet. Ashgrove Manor was supposed to be sold years ago, but no one wanted it. Rumors of screams, lights in the windows, and missing trespassers had scared away even the boldest buyers. But Eliza wasn't here to sell it. She needed answers. Inside, the house smelled of rot and something deeper, something wrong. She stepped carefully over broken floorboards and shattered picture frames. Her old memories fought to resurface. There, by the staircase, was where her mother always left her muddy shoes. That crooked painting was the one she swore tilted on its own. She flicked on the flashlight. The beam cut through the dark like a scalpel. The wallpaper was peeling in long, curling strips, revealing the old bones of the house beneath. Eliza. She froze. Her blood turned to ice. The voice had been soft. A whisper. She turned slowly, flashlight jerking toward the noise. Nothing. Just dust and darkness. She swallowed. Get a grip, she whispered to herself. Old houses make noise. But that hadn't been a house settling. That had been her name. She moved through the main hall, heart hammering, until she reached the study. The door had always been locked when she was a child. Her father said it was off limits. Now, the wood was swollen and cracked, the lock rusted through. With a little force, it gave way. The room inside was a chaos of books and yellowed papers. Her flashlight flicked across the walls, lined with bookshelves, most half empty, the others stuffed with what looked like journals. She picked one up and blew off the dust. The name on the spine chilled her. Vale. Her father. Eliza flipped it open. The handwriting was spidery, but unmistakably his. The words within made no sense at first, diagrams of ear canals, charts of sound frequencies, drawings of strange figures made of overlapping waves. Echoes exist in more than air. They pass through walls, water, flesh. They carry not only sound, but memory. Emotion. Intent. I heard them again today. In the walls. They're trying to tell me something. Page after page detailed experiments with sound. Microphones placed in sealed rooms, white noise recordings, EVP playback loops. It was clear he'd gone deep into some kind of obsession. One passage, dated just 2 days before the night everything ended, made her skin crawl. The frequencies in the lower cellar are different. The recordings there change every time I listen. They know I'm here. They are waiting. I must go deeper. She slammed the book shut. Her flashlight flickered. Then the whisper came again. Louder this time. Closer. Eliza. She turned. The room was empty. And yet, it wasn't. The air felt thick. Electric. Like something was vibrating just beyond the edge of hearing. She turned slowly, sweeping the light over the bookshelves, then paused. One shelf didn't look quite right. It was deeper. Hollow. She reached forward and pressed her hand against the wood. It gave way with a groan. A hidden door. Behind it was a narrow stairwell, descending into complete blackness. She stood at the top for a long time, heart pounding, breath shallow. Every instinct screamed at her to leave. But something else, something deeper, pulled her forward. She clicked on her flashlight again and began her descent. The stairs groaned under her weight. Each step felt like it sank deeper than it should. After what felt like minutes, she reached the bottom. The cellar was freezing. Not just cold, unnaturally so, like the air had been sucked out. Her breath came out in misty clouds. The flashlight flicked across the room. And stopped. Dozens of microphones were set up in a circle. Old tape recorders and cables were strewn everywhere. A tangle of headphones lay in the center, each one buzzing with static. One recorder was still blinking red. She pressed play. At first, nothing. Then a deep hum. Then whispers. Hundreds of them. Overlapping, writhing together. "Eliza, help us, hear us, let us out." The flashlight died. Total darkness. Then, the static stopped. And something behind her breathed. The air was thick and unmoving in the cellar, the darkness absolute. Eliza stood paralyzed, every hair on her body raised. That breath, too close, too wet, felt like it had passed through her, as if the thing in the dark had inhaled her fear. Her trembling fingers found the flashlight. She shook it violently until it flickered to life again. The light cut through the dark and illuminated nothing. The cellar was still. Silent. But something had changed. The recorders were now all blinking in unison, their red lights throbbing like eyes. One of them began to play on its own. "Never left, still here, screaming in the quiet." The voice was her father's. Eliza staggered back. Her mind raced. Was it a recording? A hallucination? But something in her gut told her it was neither. She shut the device off and bolted back up the stairs, each step screaming beneath her weight. Back in the study, she slammed the secret door shut and leaned against it, gasping. Her eyes caught the desk again, and the other journals stacked beside the first. Her father had written 5 volumes. She grabbed them all and hurried upstairs. She lit the dusty fireplace in the lounge and curled into an old armchair with a blanket wrapped around her like armor. Thunder rolled outside. She began reading. Volume 1, it was filled with family anecdotes and light academic musings on resonance, echoes, and wave behavior. He had always been obsessed with sound, even as a young professor. Volume 2, this one darkened. Her father described waking up at 3:03 a.m. every night to distant murmurs. He began installing microphones in the walls. Each recording grew stranger. Eliza's childhood voice was captured despite her not speaking. He began to believe the house was more than haunted, it was alive. Volume 3, already read. Still chilling. Volume 4, detailed bizarre experiments. He described holding seances with the resonant field of the house, claiming the voices responded when he played specific tones. He wrote, "The sound is shaping them. Or they are shaping the sound. Frequencies as vessels. The walls as memory." Drawings filled the margins, human figures made of spiraling frequencies, humanoid shapes emerging from concentric circles. Volume V, incomplete. The final entry read, "I spoke to her last night. Eliza. 10 years old. But she wasn't 10. She told me to come to the core. The belly. She said the walls would let me in. I think I'm close now. I hear them in my bones." Eliza dropped the book. She had never spoken to her father in any dream. Not in any way that made sense. The room's temperature plummeted. Whispers began. Soft at first, like someone speaking in another room. But they grew clearer, closer. She scanned the room. They weren't coming from outside. They were coming from inside the walls. She pressed her ear to the paneling. The murmurs hissed into her mind. Always here, feed us, remember. She stepped back. The panel felt warm. Pulsing. The wall shuddered. A hollow thump echoed, like something knocking. From inside. Sleep never came. Eliza paced through the house, flashlight and crowbar in hand. The whispers followed her from room to room, sometimes laughing, sometimes sobbing, always urgent. She couldn't tell if they were pleading or commanding. Downstairs again. She returned to the cellar, drawn by a force she couldn't resist. Something had changed. A panel of the far wall had collapsed, revealing a narrow tunnel dug into raw earth. The air here was fetid. Metallic. Rot and mildew. She covered her mouth and stepped inside. The tunnel curved downward in unnatural spirals. Occasionally, she found discarded microphones, broken tape reels, bones, small and brittle. She wasn't sure if they were animal. She reached the end. It opened into a cavernous chamber. A natural geode-like void, its walls glistening with black quartz. In the center stood a pillar of stone, surrounded by concentric rings carved into the floor. Strange symbols filled the grooves, archaic, rhythmic. Like sheet music written by a madman. And there, hovering above the stone, was a shape. A being. Not flesh. Not spirit. It pulsed with sound. A humanoid outline, rippling like water disturbed by vibration. Within its form were fragments, eyes, hands, a mouth, but wrong. They blinked in and out like a poorly tuned radio. It turned to her. And spoke. The voice was every voice she had ever known. Her mother. Her father. Her younger self. She is the key. The gate. The blood remembers. She fell to her knees, skull ringing, teeth chattering as if the sound was inside her. From the walls, limbs emerged. Not quite human, stretched and boneless, faces smeared like melting wax. They crawled toward her on all sides. Eliza screamed and struck the being with the crowbar. The sound shattered around her like glass. The being convulsed and howled, not in pain, but rage. She ran. Eliza barricaded the cellar. But the house was shifting. Rooms changed. Doors vanished. Mirrors whispered. She found a photo that didn't exist before, her standing between her parents, but older, eyes black, smiling. She tried to leave. The front door opened to the cellar stairs. The windows showed other rooms. She was trapped in a recursive echo. Desperate, she turned on every recorder in the study, playing the overlapping tapes. The cacophony blurred reality. The house screamed. She saw flashes of her father's final hours, dragged through tunnels by those melted things, his mouth sewn shut, eyes hollow. They made him part of the resonance. And Eliza understood. The house fed on trauma. On memory. It turned pain into sound. It recorded souls. The blood. The screams. It remembered all. The thing wanted her to join. Not to kill her. To use her. The fireplace roared. Eliza poured every drop of lighter fluid she had. The tapes. The journals. The reel-to-reel machines. She dragged a kerosene tank from the garage and doused the basement stairwell. One last time, she pressed record on a tape deck. I am Eliza Vale. My parents didn't die. Not alone. They were taken. Consumed. Echoed. The house is alive. Burn it. Burn everything. Don't listen to the walls. She struck a match. Flames climbed eagerly. Screams erupted from the walls. The house fought back. Rooms twisted. Furniture flew. Blood seeped from the cracks. But Eliza kept going. Into the cellar. Into the cavern. As the stone pulsed and the being emerged again, she flung the burning tank onto the altar. The explosion rocked Ashgrove. She woke in a hospital 2 days later. The house was gone. Authorities found no remains but scorched stone. No sign of her father. No proof of the beings. But the tape recorder survived. And it still plays. At 3:03 a.m. every night. Eliza, we're still here.